Serious people who enter other people's homes as a part of your job, maintenance workers, etc. What's the weirdest thing you've seen inside someone's home? Please subscribe, leave a like, comment and share the video to help the channel. I used to install smoke alarms for the hearing impaired, 50% elderly and 50% deaf, all over the state of Oklahoma. I would get addresses for the installations the week before and plan routes accordingly, meaning I would just put the addresses into Google and check out the Earth/map views. This place I'm thinking of was in the middle of nowhere, which is saying something considering that the entire state of Oklahoma is in the middle of nowhere. When my ASL interpreter and I made the trip, we had to ramp arm in even over a nearly washed out bridge, bounce down a forest road, and choose which of 3 broken down trailers these people were using as shelter. Looking back, we really should have just called it before ramping the bridge. Once there, we met the people and they explained, in ASL through my interpreter, that they had a tornado rip through their home that ended up sparking a fire somehow. That explanation never made it through translation. Since then they had decided to be more fire safety conscious, which I applaud, but their home had holes in the roof the size of people. One wall was just a tapestry of duct tape trash bags. I didn't feel right just installing fancy smoke alarms when they clearly needed much more help, but there wasn't anything I could do. So I'm doing the only thing I can do, installing smoke alarms, explaining basic fire safety, teaching them to use their bed shaking devices. These folks were deaf, and when I start to explain that they should exit the home without stopping to grab anything including pets, they stop me and explain that their pet is very valuable, as in it had a monetary value. I'm not one to pry, so I took this at face value and reiterated the importance of leaving the home immediately if it is on fire, especially because it's a trailer home. They had a long silent conversation with my interpreter during which she looked more and more concerned. The occupants go into a room I hadn't yet entered and emerge with a fucking bald eagle on a leash. Shit's illegal, yo. This lady had 7 huge birds, parrots, etc. all without cages and shitting directly onto the floor. It only had the pad that goes under carpet and everything had seeped through. It was horrible. She just got a German Shepherd puppy also and then proceeded to show me her machete collection. Had a dope ass classic Airstream in the backyard though. My coworker called animal control on her, but we ended up closing her case shortly after, so not sure whatever happened. So this isn't weird, but it was the most shocking. I was working with adults with intellectual disabilities that lived in residential homes. It was one of my first weeks in the job and a coworker was taking me out to a home to show me what she did when she did home reviews. We get to the house, open the door, and we are instantly hit with a wall of air smelling like fesses. 2 steps in, and it was apparent there was diarrhea on a chair, on the carpet and random splotches all over. The whole house was in shambles. The fridge was full of moldy foods, and I'll never forget picking up the shredded cheese, shaking the bag, and seeing green mold flakes go up and down. Food was splattered all over the cabinets, the beds were stained with urine and fesses, and expired canned food was found everywhere. The staff there had been neglecting those guys for a long time and no one had bothered to check up on them. I do construction sales, so I'm in homes a lot. For me, it's the sheer number of preppers that exist today. Walk into a suburban America basement and bam, 24 buckets full of survival food, or ammo stuffed into every alcove and rafter. It's definitely not just the ones you expect. I worked as a delivery driver for a deliver anything company in the early 2000s. At the time it was a very novel, but ultimately unsustainable, idea for a business back then. We had a lot of regular weirdos. One night one of these weirdos ordered about $30 worth of candles from the dollar store. This job really brought to the forefront the disconnects that exist in us as consumers. So of course initially I had gotten the wrong kind of candles for the weirdo. He showed me what he wanted at his apartment door. Luckily the store was literally a couple blocks away, so I didn't have to waste much time because I wasn't being paid hourly. Come in was what I was greeted with when I returned, which is never something I'm particularly happy about as a delivery person. I see what my rational brain tells me is a pile of laundry on a coffee table in front of a filthy couch. But it's not that. It's a 3 foot tall wax pile. I had bought candles in jars the first time, and I could definitely see why those would not work for our gentleman. He needed freestanding candles, so he could just plop one down and light it to continue building his wax mountain, which was starting to spill onto the floor. A less weird, but more awkward experience I had with this man was him literally falling asleep mid-signature for his Burger King. On one occasion we were demolishing a kitchen for a remodel and found, sealed inside the wall, 5 empty beers, and 1 full one. I had a neighbor who offered me money to clean her apartment. She had mental health issues and got some kind of subsidy from the county for home assistance, which she didn't like, but she had an inspection coming up for continuing her other benefits, so I walked in and there were dishes everywhere, glasses with dried stuff in the bottom, pizza boxes that smelled of old cheese in stacks, ashtrays piled so high they were pyramids of butts, beer cans and bottles scattered. Went into the kitchen and both sinks are piled up past the faucet. One side has water in it that's covered in a white film. The kitchen trash can had overflowed to the floor and has flies buzzing around it. Gross. But I needed the money, so I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. After I got the dishes under control, I moved on to the stove/oven. When I opened the door, the entire bottom of the oven was crawling with maggots. The wave of smell was enough to about knock me on my ass and I ran out gagging. Went home, got a mask, went back and finished cleaning up. I still cannot figure out what she did to that oven. There was no food inside and looked like it had never been used. I don't know if I could really peg one thing as the weirdest, but collectively it sure as hell was. The entire main floor had drains in every room, because they thought it would be easier to hose their house down to clean it. The bathroom had a shower that you had to hold a button on the down for water to come out. There was no end sight. Instead the master bedroom had the tub and toilet right in it, with the toilet facing the bed. The tub was a massive jacuzzi, but with a kitchen tap for a faucet, so it couldn't fill up quickly enough to stay warm. Oh, and the house was filled with naked picture of the homie Arwana. Service plumber here. At the house of an elderly lady, at least 75 years old, and there's naked pictures of her on all the walls and several dildos all about. It was interesting. A plane. Dude was refurbishing a light aircraft in his lounge. It was only the fuselage. The wings were outside. That's certainly the weirdest. As a maintenance guy at a large apartment complex, I've seen some shit. Naked people, really gross people, but thank God no dead people. I remember doing an emergency water repair and had to go into an occupied unit. It was the strangest thing. It was pretty much empty, dirty but empty, like no one lives there, no furniture, not even a bed, just a shitty mattress on the floor, and some clothes scattered around, and at least 30 pairs of Nike shoes, all sorts of weird colors, like this guy had no TV or couch, but had a collection of expensive shoes. All the same size from what I could tell. IDK, it wasn't as bad as a few hoarder units we had. I was on a ride along with the fire department. We responded to smell of smoke in an apartment building. We found the apartment fast enough because the fire alarm was going off inside. We walk in to find this guy naked as the day he was born, passed out on the floor in front of the TV with porn on way louder than it should be, and the remnants of a pizza in the oven. Edit. Thanks for the silver, guys. Okay, to answer some questions. The gentleman I questioned was very drunk. There were beer cans all over the kitchen and a bottle of liquor on the floor next to him. To wake him up we actually all left, and the fire chief woke him in his daily uniform, so he didn't think he was being abducted. Lastly, this was in Fargo, North Dakota about 14 years ago. Checking fire alarms / testing emergency bedside buttons in a nursing home that are like individual little apartments. Opened the door to stench of death and sure enough, lady dead on the bed. Been there about 2 days. So I wasn't expecting so many responses, but to answer some questions. Yes, the bedside button worked fine. No, nobody was in trouble for her not being found for 2 days. This specific place is very independent. They have their own cars and are free to come and go as they please. And the only time someone comes by is for any sort of maintenance or if they have visitors stop by. Worked as a furniture delivery guy for a rent to own place in Iowa for a couple of years, and I saw some absolutely crazy shit. We were delivering a couch to someone, and when we arrived there was no answer to our knocking. We called our manager back at the store and explained that no one was home. He tells us to hang out for a minute while he tries getting in touch with the customer. While we are waiting, we start hearing this weird sort of screeching sound coming from a detached garage. We decided to investigate the noise. We turned the corner to the front of the garage and came face to face with the meanest, scariest looking monkey I've ever seen. It was in the garage, but they had like this wire fence keeping it inside. The entire garage was its cage. In the middle of BFE, IA. I have no idea what type of monkey it was. It was large and very angry. Please subscribe, leave a like, comment and share the video to help the channel.